everybody. This is Riannah Avora. I'm here with Ilyra Chardin, co-hosting the TheARTer. We are hosting a talk show for the art community. This is our first podcast, and so for the first podcast, I'd like to introduce Ilyra. So, Ilyra, what brought you to SL?
So, my real life was in SL a couple of years before me, and he used to say, "Come and look at this," and I would look over his shoulder, and he would say, "You belong in here," and I would look, and I would think, and I would say, I don't know what I would do in there. What do you do? And he said, I build stuff, which is okay. And so actually it took 2 years of him talking before I would come on to SL, and then I loved it. So I joined in 2007, and back then, I think mostly I did what everybody else was doing. So it was a bunch of us. We were a bunch of newbies, and we did a lot of shopping, and we did a lot of clubbing. Going to clubs, and I wanted to learn to DJ in Second Life, so I did that for a while, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I wanted to learn how to build. So knowing how to do things in real life and knowing how to do things in Second Life, it's dramatically different. Knowing how to do, work with materials or things in the real world, it doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to work with digital art programs or three-dimensional modeling program or any of that. It's a huge learning curve. Actually, I remember the first time coming into Second Life, and I'd been on for just a really short time, and walking was a challenge. And we went to this thing back in 2007, Numakala, which was actually an amazing sim. The Pot Boilers Adventure. It was a puzzle, a giant puzzle that you would go from piece to piece to piece to try to figure it out. It was I think really sophisticated for back in 2007, but I was having so much trouble walking, flying, jumping, figuring like the most normal rudimentary things that we take for granted. So yeah, it was a very big learning curve for me.
Oh yeah, I know that. I had the same experience. I came to SL because of the technical aspect. Having an IT background, I'm a real geeky nerd, and I stepped into SL in 2011, I believe it was 2010, 2011, sometime in there. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, wow, just wow. The ability to interact with other people and other objects was just amazing, and the ability to script them, to do animations and things of that nature was really amazing. And I really didn't have any aspirations to ever really learn how to build an SL until a year after I was here. But it just, there was no other place like it. I had never been to any other place on the internet that allowed you to do such things. So I was just in awe. And like you, I started out doing a lot of the clubbing, and then I became a DJ and learned how to do that. And in the meantime, I had people trying to teach me how to adjust my hair. The struggle was real with trying to get your hair on straight. I mean, yeah, much different from real life and Second Life. Very different. And like you said, the working with materials and things of that nature are a lot different. Photography, I can tell you, is very different in Second Life than in real life. To me, photography in SL is actually much harder. I don't know why. For me, it is. I do photography in real life, and it's very different because the lighting is not so obvious, you know. So in SL as it is real life. But what do you think you like the most about SL?
Now I love the ability to create. I feel like I'm learning so much. I mean, things that I knew how to do in real life, I'm now learning how to translate into the digital world. You know, how do I take what's in my head, that maybe I could produce with another medium in real life, but how can I now create those things in Second Life? How could I do it digitally? How can I do it in a digital program, on a 2D or 3D render? And can I get my ideas across? And so I love that. It's my creative outlet, and I'm
Yeah.
constantly pushing myself and challenging myself and experimenting. Sometimes my experiments go a little awry, but I'm learning. I'm always learning, and I think that's what I love so much about Second Life.
Yeah, the learning, it never ends. It truly never does. There's so much to learn. I like the ability to do most anything, really, in SL. I mean, there's so much freedom from talking to people, learning about different cultures, and about how other people live and what issues they have where they live, be it in another country around on the other side of the planet.
I
It,
love that about
yeah,
Second Life. I really do. I love,
that
yeah, the fact that
that
we
is
can.
great. Yes, but and also that you can be anything you want to be with just a you can change your outfit with a click of a button. I mean, your avatar, you can be a fish. You can be anything you want to. There's I've never been bored in SL. I can honestly say that. I've never been bored. You can do so much.
No, it's true. Once I learned that there was more than shopping, although that was
Much
a
more
lot of
than
fun
shopping.
too.
Yeah. Oh,
But once I
shopping's fun.
Yeah, but once I learned, all the different that you can really be anything in Second Life.
Yes,
Anything that you can imagine, you can
exactly.
really make happen here. And it's such a powerful tool, really.
It is. It is the freedom, the power. It's awesome. It's awesome. So, how
And
it's
I just wanted to say, because I love the fact that that just like you, that I get an opportunity to meet people from all over the world, and talk to them and experience that, and have friends from all different points of view, from all different
exactly.
geographies, backgrounds. It's wonderful. It was
How long have you been an artist in SL? You think a creator?
relatively recently. I'm trying to think. It was been like 5, 6 years, maybe. I was doing things and building and making textures, but I didn't consider, which is wrong, by the way, and we'll talk about that later. But I didn't consider it art.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to make furniture, just different things like that, and just
Mm-hmm.
play and create. So I did that for a long while, and then I think it was when I joined Facebook, and I said, "How are they doing?" I mean, I know how to point and click in Second Life. We all learned that, like on day
Mm-hmm.
10 or something, how to shoot a Second Life photograph.
Mm-hmm.
But how are they making that into art? How is
Mm-hmm.
that being done? And so it was, learning to shoot in Second Life, and then really learning that post processing, working with the different tools.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's like not the same thing, knowing how to pick up a paintbrush and work with acrylics, for example, in real life. There's no comparison or parallel that you can draw to the skills that you need to log into a tool and try to figure out the menu and how to do different things. Working with working with your mouse or working with a tablet, all of that. It's like a huge, huge learning curve. So I would say it's a lot of practice, and it probably started about 6 years ago.
Figure I started really doing art maybe 2 years ago, to be honest. I like you. I didn't really consider what I did as really art. I read prims. I wrote a few scripts here and there, but I didn't really see it as art as such until I went to Leah, and took a look around, and I was just amazed. And that's what kind of started it all for me. So, what kind of tools do you use to create your textures and objects?
3D, it's Blender that I'm working in. And I still feel very much like a novice in Blender. I'm still learning so much, and there's like an unbelievable amount that I have to learn. But I'm happy that I guess I've learned enough where I can take an idea from my mind and render it in Second Life. So I'm proud of that learning. Working with textures now, working with the 2D art. I started learning in Paint Shop Pro. And so that's the tool I'm the most comfortable with. I'm going to be doing painting.
That's Corel.
If I'm painting, in Corel. If I'm painting from scratch, I'm going to look to do that in Paint Shop Pro. It was much later. I want to say, I don't know, 3 years. When Adobe offered the cloud version is when I went to Adobe also. So I use that. So between the two tools, I bounce back and forth and do different things with them.
I prefer Adobe Photoshop for creating 2D textures. I use Adobe Lightroom a little bit for minor adjustments to like photos. But as far as 3D objects, don't laugh. I like to build in prims and then convert it to mesh. That's just me. I've always been a prim builder, so I find it a lot easier to build with prims and then convert it to mesh. And so I do very little in Blender, but I have started going to, I have the Oculus goggles, and I've gone into Gravity Sketch. And I have successfully created things in Gravity Sketch and brought them into SL now. So, woohoo!
I work in both, but I also build. When I'm trying to envision something or, bring in a concept, the first thing I do is I res a cube and convert it to whatever shape I want and manipulate and torture it. And because that's how I think. When I think of 3D on the computer, that's what I'm reaching for. And so, yeah, I tend to do that too. And a lot of times I'm exporting directly from Second Life into Blender and then manipulating it in Blender and working there.
A lot of people use GIMP, I know. That's a free graphics editing program that works very well for a lot of people. People look at Second Life and they, okay, that's interesting and all that, but a lot of people do not even really realize that it's actually art. I guess because they don't really understand the creativeness or really know the creativeness and the technical skills that do go into creating such things.
You ever looked at some of the bakery creations or things when they go to make these cakes and the modeling and the work by hand, they're sculpting because I consider that art.
Yes.
I consider that to be just as much art as I consider, some of the most famous artworks that are hanging in museums. So there's always been a great debate, particularly in Second Life. I think more in Second Life, in the real art world, in real life,
Mm-hmm.
they're talking more and more about how important digital art is and how important it is to learn digital tools.
Yes.
Only in Second Life is this artificial demarcation between, uh, real life art and Second Life art, as if Second Life art is somehow fake. I could never really wrap my head around that. I never could make it make sense.
Well, I know at first, I didn't really think of it as art myself, so I can see it from that perspective until you actually start really diving into it. And then I think it becomes more apparent to the. It's a very technical art because you do have the software applications that you have to learn. The digital arts have come a long way, and I think that's where a lot of things are going. More to the digital arena on the internet, whether it be in Second Life or other worlds or other environments. They are having actual live art exhibitions on the web, so that people can attend, especially right now with everything that's going on in the world. I mean, they're looking for alternatives, and the digital world is becoming more and more active in that area for art. The creating of it, and as well as the exhibition of it.
Yeah, it's true that the pandemic has forced certain behaviors to change,
Mm-hmm.
and showing of art on the internet has definitely increased. I don't know how tenfold.
Yes.
But even before that, there were artists who were talking, and I read this. There was an artist who was producing her both parents were famous painters, or are famous painters, and she was producing art by working in 3D modeling, creating her image,
Mm-hmm.
having it printed out, and then going over it, brushing, brush strokes with like a clear coat to get, the brush strokes onto that. And that was her art, and it was hanging in galleries, and she's considered very famous. So, and there's a lot of discussion about how schools needed to teach more um, about the digital tools, and that artists need to become much more savvy as the world progresses, and technology advances, that artists need to keep up with that. And so there's not a clear distinction, although, I mean, there are a lot of people who still talk about, there are art fairs or art walks or things in the real world that, the only way that you can get into that is if you hand paint something, as opposed to producing it digitally.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's changing. I
It
really
is.
do.
It
More and
is.
more.
Scripting is also art because you can actually you can write script in such a way that animates an object or an item in such a way that it is art. So, I mean, I just learned that recently myself, just came to that conclusion because programming, scripting, that's not art, but it is in itself. At least to me, it is. It's my art. Is more scripting oriented than anything, I think. So I think scripting is also an important element of the art world these days as well.
I would agree. And I think there are a lot of art forms, photography, photo manipulation,
Mm-hmm.
digital photography, digital art, which can range from, painting in these programs, or doing collage, or some mixture or combination. All of that is art. It's as much art as the person that takes, acrylic and works on
Mm-hmm.
poster board.
Yes, it is. Definitely. I'd like to see a lot more people enter the art area. in SL, start creating, and I think that it's so helpful in so many ways. Not only to express yourself, but in today's world, you need quiet time or some thought time, what have you. Creating is a good place, a good way to get into that zone where you're just doing it, and it's amazing. The actual process of what takes place when you're creating something. When you're creating something and you have your headset on, or at least I do, and listening, it's such a satisfying and calming thing to me, just to get into that zone and just create and just let everything flow.
Yeah, when it's humming or clicking, when I'm not wrestling with how am I going to how am I going to get this out of my head and onto
Sure.
a virtual paper or into a virtual model. You know, we were talking about what is art, and you're right, scripting. There's a whole lot of ways to be creative in Second Life, which is why I love
There
it.
are.
And that is a way to be creative, and something that people overlook. But I mean, if you look at some of the merchants here in Second Life and some of the products that are being offered,
They're amazing.
I think there's a very, very thin line, or maybe no line at all, between art and their products. And so, what is art to me? Art is the ability to be creative, to creatively express
Exactly.
yourself, express your ideas, concepts. And so, are you expressing it through writing? Are you expressing it through drawing, through painting, through sculpting, digitally painting, through a digital collage, etc., through scripting, through product development, through
There's
dance,
We
through
also
poetry.
have people who write, they compose their own music and produce it as well. We have a few artists at UASL that do that, United Artists of SL, which brings me around to your gallery, Emergent. Tell us how that got started.
Oh, this is going to sound so lame.
Never.
Emerging got started. I'd had a while ago. I had Art in the Park, which I ran for quite a few years. And then there were real life circumstances caused me to have to, bow out of doing that.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. And when I got back, I got back into Second Life, and I started creating. And I learned mesh. When I learned mesh, and I learned how to create the sculptures, started developing a lot of them. And I looked, and I was like, I want a place to. Initially, I was thinking, I want a place because once an exhibition ends, then where are my sculptures going to go? And so I thought, well, I can, have a gallery, and I can invite, out just a few, just 3 or 4 people tops, because I like smaller, very focused exhibitions, to show their work in the main gallery. And then, I could have my sculptures and have them out. And then people started inviting me to show at other galleries, and so now I find my sculptures in a lot of different places. And UASL is one of those places where I'm showing. But that was why I developed Emergent in the first place. I guess that's the lame part of it, is I was just looking for a place where I could show my sculptures.
Right. So get on out and be sure to visit the gallery, support the artists. It's a great way to have fun and to see different things every time. It's really it's a great time. So well, I appreciate you staying with us, And Ilyra, I hope will join me next time for the next podcast/video. If you like this kind of thing, then I invite you to watch our next following up episode. It'll be I figure about once a month we'll do this, and we'll have other people on and ask them a bunch of questions and just have a great old time. How about that? Does that sound good to you?
It sounds great to me. I hope it sounds great to everybody listening. Yeah, we hope to get a number of guests in the different arts from Second Life to come and speak with us.
Yes, definitely. Variety is the spice of life, they say. All right, everybody have a good day and take care. We'll see you next time.